I bought a bunch of pieces for $50, and this was one of the pieces that was in the stash, and I think it is just perfect for my late entry in the eco-friendly Halloween challenge. Hosted by Marah from Borderline Furniture RX. As you see, I'm a little late, but Marah kindly accepted my late entry. On to the eco-friendly flipping. As per usual, I'm checking everything out to make sure that everything works okay, and I can't get the right side door open, so I keep fooling around with it. My plan that I'm thinking of really involves these two doors, so I just proceed, and I see that fabric panel that's in there, and I want to get rid of that because that's part of my design. So it comes right out and the fabric comes right off. So far, so good. I try various methods. I put a screw in there to see if I can pull it out. I put all kinds of things in the frame to try and pry it out, and nothing seems to be working. I'm sure by now some of you are seeing the problem, but now it dawns on me after I look in the back and realize there's no back in it, and I flip it over so I can pull out that panel that's on the inside and easily access it. And then when I get it pulled out and I take a look at the panel that's in there, then I realize that this was a cabinet either for a TV or a stereo, because this section that I pull out has a little screen on it, and then the fabric covered it just to make it look more attractive. So while I have it upside down, I give it a good vacuum, because real spider webs are just plain scary, right? Again, while it's upside down, I take advantage of repairing some of the front of the legs that had come off, and I love it when people keep parts that fall off of older furniture. It makes it so much easier. You don't have to make a mold or guess anything. So I just take those two pieces and I use Tight Bond Thick and Quick, and I reattach them and clamp them. Where there's some peeling veneer, I also put some glue behind it, wiping off the excess, and I'll clamp that as well. I use Dixie mud to fill in any of those spaces where the veneer is completely gone, and also to smooth the transition between the repairs where I glued on the new piece to the piece. And when that's dry, I sand it again, first using a coarse grit sandpaper, then switching to a fine. Time to get everything cleaned up again and free of any sanding dust, and get busy to put a little bit of paint on this piece. Before I do that, I'll make just a little bit more dust. I used the panel that I removed from the door, and then I cut a template for another piece. I also measure the insert that came out of the right side door that had the hole in it for the speaker. The saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. So I decided I would try to make the panel swing, which is kind of direction for the rest of my design. Still upside down, I take advantage of this opportunity to get in all the places that are so hard to reach whenever your piece is standing right side up. So my plan here is to do one coat of silk anchor paint. I absolutely love the look of black paint over a dark wood grain. Just one coat, and then I do a dark wax. It lets the grain show through, and in this situation where I'm kind of under the wire, it's also a time saver. It's kind of friendly in that way. So I let that dry overnight, and then I come back, clean off the top, and get busy painting the rest of the piece. Of course, I keep my brush in a bag overnight, which saves a lot of time washing out brushes. So I mentioned that swinging door. So if you haven't guessed, I'm kind of making a little cat sanctuary here, somewhere where a cat can go in and out of the swinging door, perhaps to use a litter box and keep that kind of discreet in the home. So that's the idea, because you can use the other compartments for whatever you want. If you want to use it for cat treats and, you know, whatever else, the bag of, or jar of the litter. So I struggled so much with the design. I was wanting to do originally a reversible panel when I thought that both panels worked. I was going to do a Halloween scene on one side so you could flip it and do a Christmas scene on the other side, and then a regular design for the rest of the time. But I just couldn't wrap my mind around the right design. And then I started thinking, since I was doing the cat sanctuary, that I wanted cats in the design. And then as I kept working, it popped into my head that the trend now is the dark academia in decor. So this trend just kind of embraces lots of things like that are academic. So books and botanical things, scientific kind of things, skulls, anything you might find in a lab, but also some decorative aspects that you might find in a library, such as books and gilded frames and candlesticks. So I kind of love it, and I feel like it's really on trend. So I'm kind of using an idea I saw Brushed by Brandy do, and making molds with my Iron Orchid Designs frames mold. So I put those on the door fronts, the panel, and also the swinging door. I'm using Titebond Thick and Quick. I used air dry clay. I am working with it while it's still wet and just gluing them on. And you have to make sure, I'm using one of those brushes that you get at Harbor Freight that are just kind of wiry utility brushes, because I can just throw them away. But I just want to make sure that those things are good and solid on there. So then I take the silk paint and go over everything, and you can paint the molds while they're wet. You want to let them sit a little bit, and through this process that they develop a little bit of a crust on them. That way you don't crush all the little details in the mold when you're brushing them. That's where I am with this design. So I finish painting them, I do 2 coats, and I let it sit overnight. It's possible that those molds might shrink a little bit, and I'll have to touch up the paint in the morning, but I'm so glad that I finally have my design plan going in a direction that I am comfortable with. I was right, they shrunk. So I am showing you those areas where you can see the background around it because it shrunk. So I'm just taking the silk again and touching that all up. And now I am looking at a transfer that I just love, called Entomology, etc. And I'm not sure what this guy's name is. If you know his name, comment. And is it a fictitious character kind of moth, or is it a real deal moth? I select a variety of little images that I'm going to put on these frames. I use this color called Cashmere. It's actually was a special blend a couple years ago. It can be recreated in the Color Lab on the Dixie Belle page, but I thought it would be a good color because it seemed like it was in the background of a lot of these images. So I'm just painting inside the frame. I'm only going to do 1 coat, even though I'm not getting total coverage, because I figure once I do the transfer on it, and I'm planning on doing some waxing, that should take care of that. Some of them don't quite fit in the frames, so I'm centering them. I'm trimming them a little bit. What's great about the grid lines on these transfers is that you really can get it centered in the middle of these frames. So I'm being kind of gentle. I mean, I have to use the stick that comes with it to do the transfer, but I'm still being a little bit gentle because these molds are only since yesterday, so they're relatively fresh. And I always preach to make sure that you get your paint good and dry before you start doing transfers. Well, every now and then I don't follow my own advice. So most of them transferred just fine. Some of them I lost a little bit, but that's okay. This is kind of a real, just kind of dramatic, kind of vintagey look. So we're not going to worry about a little bit of missing something. It just adds to that drama and that history of the look of it. I love it, and it's only going to get better. Now let's play with some wax. So I go back to my piece, and I'm going to try something different. So I'm going to take some black wax and I am going to slather it all over this piece real heavily, just like I would clear wax. So normally I would say use your clear wax and then use that to float your darker wax. We're kind of doing the opposite here. I'm using the black wax mainly to kind of supplement the color as well as seal it. So remember, I put that one coat of silk anchor on here intentionally so I could see a little bit of the grain. But this step really helps to even things out and add a little more color and also just seal it in. And it's going to allow me to float my lighter wax on here. So now I'm going to take my grunge gray wax and my La Petite brush, which has a little bit of a point, and I'm going to go in all of the corners of the drawers and all of the places on the piece that have any sort of detail and around the handles, just like I would with dark wax. Like I said, this is kind of an experiment. I've used white wax similarly, but I thought the gray wax would kind of give it a cool look with our dark theme here with our academia. If you'll notice in the upper left corner of that drawer, some of the paint came off. That happens sometimes whenever you use wax kind of aggressively. I love that look, and I'm going to rub some more spots back just so I can get that. So that was kind of my intention when I only did one coat of paint and did this heavy wax. So I knew that might happen in the process, and I'm kind of glad it did. I need to find a way for the little door to swing, so I'm going to use a piano hinge, and I have one that's really long because it came off a piano, but I only need 12 inches, so I'm measuring the 12 inches and making my mark. I thought I would try using some channel locks, and it went through it like butter, so I'm glad I chose that. It was nice and clean and easy. Back to my panels, I give them the same wax treatment using smaller brushes. So I go around the frames with the black wax, and then I come back in over top and on the insides of the picture frames with the gray wax. I know I'm a late entry in the Halloween eco-friendly challenge, but I want to remind everybody to watch all of the other videos in the playlist. And thank you so much, Marah, for extending this a little bit, and I certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate you hosting as well. This challenge was all about being eco-friendly, and I definitely feel like upcycling in general is eco-friendly, but I used bits and I didn't open anything new. I want some interest on the inside of the panels so that when you open the one cupboard door that you'll see this design. You may see the flapping door, the back of the flapping door as well. So just in case you do, making sure I'm going to paint it. So I am using silk in the midnight green, and this paint got really thick. So if your paint gets thick, don't worry, you can still use it anyway. I'm not having any problems. It's thick, it's given me some texture, but it really doesn't matter. I'm going to do a stencil on it, and it's going to be on the back of a door anyway. I'm using the Royal Damask stencil and the very last little bit of anchor that's in that jar. I'm really getting my money's worth out of that jar. It's been lasting me for several projects. I'm using an older brush that's a little stiffer. It's very large though, so remember to offload that paint so that you don't get any paint underneath your stencil. Inspiration truly comes from anywhere. I saw this at my doctor's office the other day. They decorated their cubicles, and I thought it was really cute, so that's what inspired me to make that design on the inside of those doors, which I think is just perfect. Because the wood that I'm using for the panels is just Luan plywood, it's going to be really difficult to put a screw through that. So I heavily glued with the Titebond Thick and Quick and put the one side of the hinge on the top of my swinging door. I simply glued the panel in the frame of the other door. It was a very tight fit, and I didn't see that it was necessary to replace all of those screws. I think there were at least 16 screws holding just that simple panel in. So I think it'll be just fine with that. So I'm replacing those handles, and I'm putting a nice little drop, a bronze drop on there. And since the other one was a fake one, the hole didn't go the whole way through, so I drilled through so I could attach the fake handle. I put the piece down on its front again on this drop cloth just to protect it, but it's going to be so much easier to center and screw in that swinging door. So now I have a little more fun with some more wax. I'm using some bronze gilding wax to make the handles that are on the top cupboards match what's on the handles. And really, it's such a good match because these are black and I'm adding bronze. The other ones were bronze and they had black accents. So really, they are twinsies. Remember what this old cabinet looked like before? Take a look at it now. Let me know what you think. Do you like the dark academia style? Thank you so much for watching today, and thanks